Good evening and welcome to the 18th episode of Ahargana. I am on the east coast of India. I am in Mamallapuram, waiting for the monsoon to set in. Today is the 18th of June. Monsoon should have set in by first week of June. That's what the Met department says, but it's a delayed monsoon this year. So I came here expecting very bright sunny skies, but I think the monsoon has started setting because the whole of yesterday afternoon and today morning it was raining, and now in the evening it's extremely cloudy and I can barely feel the heat. Summer is really coming to a close and the monsoon is about to start. And I'm standing in Mamallapuram, and behind the camera, you cannot see it, is the shore temple, the very famous shore temple built by Narasimha Pallavan II in about 700-720 AD. It still stands. It's a beautiful temple, weathered by age because it is standing on the edge of the ocean. There are more monuments somewhere there, but I cannot get closer to the monuments today because the G20 meeting is going on, and I think we are staying at Radisson Resort, and there is a police bandobast which prevents me from going closer to the monument. So instead of having the monument as the backdrop, I turn the other way so that I am no security threat to them and I am having nature as my backdrop. And you know, nature is always the theme of Ahargana, has always been the theme of Ahargana. Nature not on this scale, but on a much grander scale. So we are coming to the close, pretty much to the close of the Ahargana series. We are at the tail end, and today's topic is Ritu, the seasons. We have covered a lot of ground in the series. We had finished the entire Chandramana up front because that's relatively easier to understand. Then we got into Sauramana. We synchronized Chandramana and Sauramana. That was a fairly complex topic. Then we moved deeper into Sauramana and it kept getting more and more complex. But I think the complexities are behind us, and we are going to talk about the seasons, the Ritu. And that's why I'm talking about the monsoon, because right now we are on the brink of switching from the grishma Ritu to the varsha Ritu, from the summer to the monsoon. And that is the topic of this episode, how the Hindu calendar defines the various seasons. Now, how does the Hindu calendar define Ritu, the seasons? The simplest way to look at this is to take a saura varsha and divide it into 6 equal parts. But you don't take the nirayana saura varsha starting at meshadi, no. You take the sayana saura varsha and divide it into 6 equal parts. Then you get the 6 ritus, the 6 seasons. Now, you know that a sayana saura varsha is Uttarayana and dakshinayana combined. So you take Uttarayana, you divide it into 3 equal parts, that is shishira, vasanta, grishma. Then you take dakshinayana, divide that into 3 equal parts, that is varsha, sharad and hemanta. And you got the 6 seasons, the 6 ritus. So Uttarayana split into 3 seasons, dakshinayana split into 3 more seasons. Now, if you have to take Uttarayana, split it into 3 equal parts, then in geometric terms, that is the time taken by the sun to move 60 degrees. So 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 180 degrees, it's completed half a year from the starting point. Then same way another 60, 60, 60, 180, it brings you back to where you started. So this is the fundamental definition of Ritu. And the idea is also very straightforward, because when the sun is in the southernmost tip, that is on the Tropic of Capricorn, it's likely to be very cold up in the north. So that is our shishira. Shishira is the cold season, and as the sun starts progressively coming closer to the equator, we switch over to our vasanta, which is our spring season. And then the sun crosses the equator, comes up to close to Kanyakumari, then we switch over to our grishma, the summer season when it gets extremely hot. Then we wait until the sun hits the Tropic of Cancer, and that's when our summer season ends. And then the monsoon begins because it starts to rain around the same time. And also the sun is now moving southwards, it's getting back closer to the equator. Then the monsoon ends, we switch over to our sharad ritu, and that is our autumn. And it crosses the equator, goes down south, it starts getting cold again up in the north, and that's when we enter the hemanta ritu, which is winter for us. So that is the 6 seasons. Once again, I will re-emphasize the point that we are taking the sayana saura varsha and splitting it into 6 equal parts. Now, if during a ritu the sun moves 60 degrees along the ecliptic, remember from the definition of rashi, a rashi's duration is 30 degrees of movement of the sun, and a ritu is 60 degrees, so one ritu is 2 rashis, only with respect to duration, not with respect to their starting points. Because remember, once again, we are not splitting the nirayana saura varsha into 6 equal parts, but we are splitting the sayana saura varsha into 6 equal parts, and you know the difference between these two, ayanamsha. In fact, if you look at Surya Siddhanta's definition of ritu, that still says that Makara and Kumbha rashis coincide with shishira ritu. Meena and Mesha rashi coincide with vasanta ritu, and so on and so on. But we know that that was true in 285 AD, and we have spent one entire episode discussing the topic of ayanamsha. So the definition that I have given you about splitting the sayana saura varsha into 6 equal parts is taken from the works of Sri Bal Gangadhar Tilak. For majority of the sayana elements, I am using Sri Bal Gangadhar Tilak's research as my foundation, not the Surya Siddhanta, and I have explained to you the concept of ayanamsha and why I am doing that. So with that, I am going to roll the animation now. Take a look. Okay. Let's get started. In this episode, we will take a detailed look at the definition of ritu in the Hindu calendar. That is the seasons in the Hindu calendar. The fundamental definition of ritu is that it is a 6-part division of the sayana saura varsha. What does that mean? You know that there are 2 types of saura varshas, nirayana and sayana saura varsha. Nirayana saura varsha starts with meshadi, goes once completely around and comes back. On the other hand, sayana saura varsha is nothing but a combination of Uttarayana, when the sun moves from here to here, and then dakshinayana, when the sun moves from there to here. That is a sayana saura varsha, and it is called sayana because it is affected by the precession of the equinox. These 2 points, dakshinayana and Uttarayana points, and the vasanta vishvat and sharad vishvat, all of them are slowly moving in this direction. Very, very slowly. In 72 years, they move 1 degree. So when we come to the topic of ritu, we take this sayana saura varsha, that is the time taken by the sun to start from dakshinayana point, go once complete around the ecliptic and come back to the dakshinayana point. That is divided into 6 equal parts, and each part is a ritu. So I'm going to show this animation in 2 parts. First, we will look at it using this model which you see in front of you, and then I will run the animation a second time using the orthographic model which shows you the celestial sphere. So you get a better feel for summer and winter as you look at the sun moving north and south. This first view, which I am going to animate now, will give you a better feel for the geometry, because I will talk about the degrees the sun is moving. So let's start the animation now. So the sun is here at the dakshinayana point. It is December 21st, 2020. And the dakshinayana point in the sayana scale is 270 degrees. It is shown here. Because the sayana scale starts measuring everything from vasanta vishvat, and that is 0 degrees. Stellarium, i.e. Western astronomy, when it comes to the ecliptic coordinate system, stellarium is also sayana. So the 0 degrees and vasanta vishvat coincide. You have seen this in the previous episodes. So starting from here, if you come all the way like this, so when you come here, this is 270 degrees. And I am going to start the animation from 270 degrees. Take a look. Now the sun is moving along the ecliptic. From 270 degrees, it's coming closer towards 330 degrees, and it has stopped here. And this entire period it took is called shishira ritu. So shishira ritu is the time taken by the sun to move from 270 degrees to 330 degrees sayana longitude. And it has reached 330 degrees on February 18th, 2021. So it's approximately 2 months. Now once shishira ritu ends, I am going to start rolling the animation again. Vasanta ritu begins. And vasanta ritu, the sun has now crossed vasanta vishvat and it has come to 30 degrees. So it moved from 330 degrees, it reached 0 degrees, continued beyond, and it reached 30 degrees here. So this entire period when the sun moved from 330 degrees to 30 degrees sayana longitude is known as vasanta ritu. And vasanta vishvat is in the middle of vasanta ritu. Not the beginning, not the end, in the middle. And it is a little bit funny from 330 suddenly going to 30, but that is the geometry, because when you come here it's 360 degrees, so the number resets back to 0 degrees, and then you proceed to 30. So what is really happening here is each ritu is the time taken by the sun to move 60 degrees. So first 60 degrees from 270 to 330, and then the second 60 degrees from 330 to 30. And by the time it reaches here, this is the end of vasanta ritu, and that begins grishma ritu. And that is on 20th April 2021, and it goes on, the sun is moving towards 90 degrees. And it has reached 90 degrees, that is the end of grishma ritu. So this 60 degrees from 30 to 90 is grishma ritu. Similarly, continuing further, now dakshinayana has begun. So the first 60 degrees of dakshinayana, that is until the sun comes to 150 degrees here, this is varsha ritu. Not varsha, but varsha. Because you know that varsha is a year. No? Chandra varsha, saura varsha. Whereas varsha is rain. So this is rain season, rainy season. And that ends when the sun comes to 150 degrees sayana longitude. And then begins sharad ritu. And sharad vishvat, as you can see, is right in the middle of sharad ritu. And that goes on until the sun reaches 210 degrees. So this entire period is sharad ritu. 150 degrees to 210 degrees, and finally the sun moves from here onwards. This is hemanta ritu, and hemanta ritu ends when the sun comes back to 270 degrees. So these are the 6 seasons that is defined in the Hindu calendar. And note, this is all sayana. So you do know that this dakshinayana point Uttarayana point and the Vasanta Vishwat and Sharad Vishwat are continuously changing. So all these degrees which I am mentioning are measured using Vasanta Vishwat as the 0 degree point, but the Vasanta Vishwat is continuously moving. So these degrees are measured instantaneously from a moving starting point. And we are familiar with this. We have seen this before when we defined tithis long back. Because tithi is the angle by which the moon has moved from the sun. We are looking for 12 degrees, 12 degrees, 12 degrees, but the sun is continuously moving. Same concept here. This is the distance the sun has moved from Vasanta Vishwat, but Vasanta Vishwat is continuously moving. But don't get confused. The Ritus, I am not starting them at Vasanta Vishwat. The angle measurement starts at Vasanta Vishwat at 0 degrees, but the definition of Ritu I started with dakshinayana point 270 degrees because Vasanta Vishwat falls in the middle of a Ritu. Yeah, so it's difficult to explain Ritus if I start at Vasanta Vishwat. That's why I started at dakshinayana point. In fact, there is a very old tradition which Sri Balgangadhar Tilak refers to, that this was a new year in ancient times. So this is the definition of Ritu, but I have not told you what each of these really mean. What is shishira, what is vasanta, what is grishma, what is varsha? I mentioned it is rainy season. What is sharad and what is hemanta? So to view that, I am going to switch over to the orthographic projection where you can actually see the celestial sphere. So far, I showed you this projection because it helps you see the geometry and it helps you see all the 6 seasons in front of your eyes, where each season begins. But now I am going to switch over to the next projection. This you are familiar with. You have already seen this when we looked at Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Same animation, but I am going to run this with a little bit of additional information now. So the sun is here at 270 degrees on 22nd December. In this case, it is 21st December 2020. And this is where Shishira Ritu is going to start. And right now the sun is on top of the Tropic of Capricorn. This is the equator and this is Tropic of Cancer, and we have seen in an earlier tutorial that Kanyakumari is 8 degrees north of equator. That means Kanyakumari is somewhere here in this level, in this latitude. And this is as far as the sun can get from the southern tip of India, because sun does not go any further south. That is the definition of dakshinayana point. It is the limit of dakshinayana. It doesn't go any further south. Dakshinayana point marks the end of the dakshinayana period. So since this is the end as far as the sun can be away from us in a latitude sense, this period is going to be very cold. So this season, which is called shishira, I am showing it here, shishira begins here, but the sun is now moving steadily northward. So theoretically, the days should be getting less and less cold. The days should be getting warmer relatively. So this period is not exactly winter, but it's most people call it post-winter. And in Sanskrit, it is called cool season, shishira. Cool season, cold season, not exactly winter. So 330 degrees, it's still south of the equator. It's still far away from Kanyakumari. It's still cold. So this is the end of Shishira Ritu. And from here onwards, we move into Sharad Ritu, into Vasanta Ritu. The days are getting really warm. Now we have crossed the equator and we have come close to the 10 degree point. We have moved beyond the 10 degree point latitude. But in ecliptic longitude, we have reached 30 degrees. So I'm showing you 2 coordinate system here. One is this 30 degrees along the ecliptic. Other is I'm talking about this line, which is a latitude, which is 10 degrees. It's not marked here, But equator is 0 degree latitude. This is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and finally 90 degrees is the North Pole. So now the sun has come a little bit north of Kanyakumari. It has almost come up to probably Bangalore, Chennai, Mangalore. That is the limit of vasanta ritu. So during this period when the sun moved from here to here, this point is vasanta ritu, when the days have got warmer and warmer and it is definitely no longer cold. Shishira is far behind us. This is the spring season. Vasanta is the spring season. Starting from here, when the sun is overhead Bangalore, begins grishma ritu, and that is burning hot summer. Grishma is summer, and clearly this is when the sun is directly overhead India, at least the southern part of India, because this is the Tropic of Cancer, and I have told you in an earlier tutorial that Ujjain is somewhere very close to the Tropic of Cancer, and it doesn't go any further north of this. The sun does not move overhead Delhi or even Rajasthan for that matter. But this period is Grishma Ritu, and that is summer. And it ends when Uttarayana ends, when the sun reaches the Uttarayana point. Continuing further, now the sun has started moving southward. Dakshinayana has started. And this period is called varsha ritu because this is precisely when monsoon also sets in. And if you see the time, this is somewhere around 21st of June. In fact, monsoon, the Met department says it starts first week of June itself, whereas the Hindu calendar says it should be starting around 2021 June. Some of the discrepancies we will discuss in greater detail in a separate episode. But this entire period when the sun is moving back towards the equator, traversing north to south over the Deccan Plateau, this is the Varsha Ritu. The sun's effect is offset by the effect of rains and the clouds. So it feels less hot and plenty of water. Now Varsha Ritu ends here and Sharad Ritu begins, and that is autumn. Days are becoming colder, sun has reached the equator, crossed south of the equator, and we have seen that this is known as Pitru Paksha, the period of, and then sun came to 210 degrees, well south of the equator. Things are really going to become cold, so that is the end of Sharad Ritu, of autumn. So autumn gets over here, and now starts the real winter, hemanta ritu. Day by day, it gets colder and colder and colder because the sun is moving further south and south and south. It's getting further away from the southern tip of India until it reaches the dakshinayana point. This entire period is hemanta ritu, when it is winter in the northern hemisphere. So clearly all these definitions are with respect to the northern hemisphere because that's where we live. And beyond this, if you go, the whole cycle repeats because the sun starts Uttarayana again, so shishira starts again, and then vasanta, grishma, varsha, sharad, hemanta. The cycle goes on and on and on and on. So this is the way seasons are defined in the Hindu calendar, and this is why seasons are defined this way. Because of the latitudinal movement of the sun north and south, which causes the seasons. Nothing really unknown here. A lot of this is straightforward astronomy from your high school days. But it's good to know the Hindu seasons are defined in the same way, whereas most high school texts would talk about only 4 seasons. We have got 6 seasons, including a monsoon. One more point. We have seen now that a ritu is the time taken by the sun to move 60 degrees of sayana longitude. So for example, Sharad Ritu, the sun moved from 150 degrees to 210 degrees. So this is 60 degrees of sayana longitude. Similarly, Hemanta, the sun moved from 210 degrees to 270 degrees. That is another 60 degrees of sayana longitude. Now, if you recollect the definition of rashi, you know that a rashi is the time taken by the sun to move 30 degrees. Yes, that is nirayana longitude, but sayana longitudes and nirayana longitudes are extremely close because the vasanta Vishwat moves so slowly. It moves 1 degree in 72 years. So, from a duration perspective, a ritu is 2 rashis. Twice 30 degrees is 60 degrees. So, a ritu is 2 rashis. But only from the perspective of duration, not from the perspective of starting points. Because the starting points of the various rashis, which start with the meshadi onwards, and the starting point of the ritus are very different today. Now, they were coinciding in 285 AD. In fact, if you look at the Surya Siddhanta definition of ritu, it says that shishira ritu starts with Makara Sankranti, and then after every 2 rashis, a new ritu starts. But that was true only in 285 AD when there was 0 ayanamsha. The definition that I am giving you here is based on the works of Sri Bal Gangadhar Tilak, which is much more accurate when it comes to these sayana calendric elements. But this overall correspondence between rashi and ritus, I will try and illustrate it using a separate short video. Hopefully, I will be able to release that next week itself. So with that, I bring this animation to a close. I hope you found it instructive, and I hope it was clear and understandable to you. And thank you for your patience, for staying through the animation, and thank you very much for watching. So that was all about Ritu, the 6 seasons of the Hindu calendar. Very simple definition, very clear, astronomically clean, neat definition. But you must remember that of all the calendric elements so far, it is only the seasons that we actually feel on the surface of the earth. You don't feel a Sankramana or a Sankranti. It doesn't make any difference to you. You don't feel moon moving from one nakshatra to another. Nothing. You can't make out anything. But the seasons, you feel it. So when I tell you it's summer, it should be really, really hot. And conversely, when I tell you it's winter, it should be really, really cold, sub-zero temperatures, and you have to put on gloves and winter jackets and all that. And if that does not happen, you're going to wonder, are these seasons defined correctly? So for example, if you are living in Chennai and I tell you in December, this is winter, and you are walking around in shorts and a t-shirt, yeah, it's reasonably pleasant, but it's hardly cold. And you call this winter? Why? So same way I say monsoon is starting now, and you turn around and tell me, hey guy, it's been raining for 3 weeks now. Monsoon started 3 weeks back, and you wake up now and tell me in the Hindu calendar monsoon is starting only now? Your Hindu calendar is behind. So because we feel these seasons, they have to correlate with our feelings. If what we feel and what the season the Hindu calendar says doesn't match, it's problematic. And the problem comes primarily not because of the astronomy, but because of geography. The north-south extent of our country, from 8 degrees north of equator in Kanyakumari to almost 37 degrees north of equator at the northernmost tip of Kashmir. That is the problem. So we will talk more about that in the next episode. Same with other factors also. It's not just the sun, but there are other factors which influence seasons. Altitude where you are living, as well as the El Nino and ocean currents. And there are so many factors which come into play to determine the weather and seasons. Whereas our calendar takes only one factor into consideration, the position of the sun, saura. So that will be the topic of the next episode, and that will bring us to the end of Sauramana and pretty much to the end of Ahargana, because after that I have only Savanamana left, that is a civil calendar, and there I will talk about Dina and Ratri and Ahoratra, day-night and a day-night pair. And then I will try to talk about smaller divisions of a day called galige or nadika, which are really small units of time, and that will really bring us to a complete closure of the Ahargana serial. So thank you very much for staying with me all this while, watching this serial, and I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it. And as always, I request you, please forward the link of this channel to all your friends so that more Hindus come to understand the astronomy behind the Hindu calendar. So I'm going to close this episode here. Thank you very much for watching, and until I see you again next time, take care and bye-bye.